Joining me right now to talk more about the situation in Afghanistan and how it relates to China is Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane. He is the former vice chairman of the U.S. Army, a retired four-star Army general, and a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, the highest civilian honor. General, it's always an honor to speak with you. Thanks for being here.
Delighted to be here, Maria.
Well, what was your take on the fact that President Biden sits there at the UN General Assembly on the world stage and does not recognize the threat of China after a year that saw the CCP invade India, killing soldiers, invade Hong Kong, start throwing around their national security law, putting people in jail, freedom fighters like Jimmy Lai, as well as the continuation of bad behavior on the U.S., from stealing intellectual property to bullying its neighbors. And yet it did not come up in Joe Biden's UN speech.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable in my mind, and what a lost opportunity. Usually, when we have a new president and he's going before the UN General Assembly, where all the leaders of the world are present, or at least their representatives are there, it's an incredible platform that usually most presidents take advantage of. And before that platform, given the debacle that took place in Afghanistan just such a short while ago, and the whole world watched that, and the United States' competence and resolve was brought into question, I think that's indisputable, and certainly people had that on their minds. This was an opportunity for the President of the United States. He's making the claim that we're returning to the world stage as a global leader, and therefore deal with the United States' competence and resolve. Lay out the strategic framework on how we're going to deal with adversarial nations who are destabilizing the world order, China, Russia, and Iran. And also, I think, come straight out and deal with Afghanistan in terms of U.S. commitment and U.S. resolve going forward, and admit that there had been some mistakes made. But the fact that our allies are sitting there, think about our allies in Indo-Pacific region. And I've been out there and talked to many of them. And what they all do business with China. They don't have much choice as a trading partner, but they all look to the United States, Maria, for security. All of them out there, to include the lesser countries we don't mention much, like Vietnam and Singapore and Indonesia. But all the major ones do as well. And we didn't even address that in terms of the strategic significance and what is the United States' plans to deal with China's aggression, as well as Russia in Eastern Europe and creating their own sphere of influence, and what Iran wants to do in the Middle East. That was huge lost opportunity.
General, what are your thoughts on what we saw these last 2 weeks, where Chinese warplanes entered the airspace of Taiwan?
Yes, very significantly. The numbers involved and the frequency of it has outstripped anything we've seen in the past. And it clearly is a result of what took place in Afghanistan. I mean, what they're trying to send a message, particularly to the Taiwanese, but also to our other allies in the region, is, Chinese might and power, in the inevitability of Taiwan actually becoming a part of China, that you cannot resist it. And the United States is not going to be there to help you. That's the message they're sending as a result of the disaster in Afghanistan. But it portends a dangerous situation. Listen, most analysts will look at this and look at President Xi, and you have to take him at his word, because he has a tendency to do what he says. He's very unlike his predecessors, because he speaks so much openly and publicly about where he's going strategically. And he has said repeatedly that we are not going to pass the Taiwan problem on to the next generation. We are going to solve this problem during his tenure. And that clearly means either Taiwan submits willingly or they do something forcefully. And I do believe that the situation in terms of force being an option is likely getting closer. We all said sometime in the next decade. But here's what's driving Xi also as a backdrop to what's taken place. Number one, he knows full well he's got economic headwinds, with debt, loss of productivity, demographic problems, and they're going to get worse over time. Secondly, increasing global resistance and militaries in the region, to include the United States and our allies, retooling, getting more capability. That may move that window closer, and that'd be unfortunate.
General, we should also point out that General Mark Milley and Lloyd Austin, Defense Secretary, will testify next week. That will be among the topics. Jack Keane, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.